I swear I didn't mean to stare, but there was something about the way she stood in the doorway, one hand still on the frame, the other brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek, that made the air shift. Her name was Elena, my mother's friend, or maybe not even that close. They'd worked together once, years ago. Now she lived 2 streets down, alone. I'd been dropping off a package meant for her. Nothing romantic, nothing dramatic, but that's how it starts, right? Something ordinary that refuses to stay that way. It was early evening, the kind of gray-blue hour that turns everything softer. Her house smelled faintly of citrus and old books. There was music somewhere inside, low enough to feel more than hear. She smiled, small, polite, the kind people use when they're deciding whether to trust you. "You can wait inside," she said, stepping back. I hesitated, shoes still on the doormat. She was wearing a thin knit sweater, sleeves pushed up. Her wrist caught the last bit of light, veins, small freckles, the kind of detail you don't mean to notice but do. When I finally looked up, she was watching me. Not smiling anymore, not frowning either, just waiting. I stepped forward. The sound of my shoes on her hardwood floor felt too loud. She closed the door behind me. A quiet click that echoed more than it should have. Then she turned the lock. I wasn't sure if she always did that or if she realized she had. Her hand lingered on the handle for a second too long before she let go. "So," she said, turning toward the counter, voice light, "you're the delivery man now? Just doing a favor," I said, trying for a smile that didn't quite land. Her laugh, soft, short, filled the space between us. "Kind of you." I watched her move around the kitchen. Slow, deliberate. She reached for a mug, poured coffee that had gone cold, took a sip anyway. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was something else, suspended. "Long day?" I asked. She nodded, her gaze somewhere past me. "They all are lately." For a second, I thought she might say more. Instead, she set the mug down and leaned on the counter, fingers tracing the edge absent-mindedly. "You look tired too," she said quietly. "College," I said. "And stuff." She gave a faint smile. "Stuff. That never really stops." The way she said it, not teasing, not distant, landed somewhere deep, like she was remembering something she didn't want to remember out loud. I found myself wanting to ask what she meant. Instead, I just nodded. Her eyes softened. "You don't talk much, do you?" "I do," I said. "When it matters." That made her laugh again, the kind of laugh that hides a sigh. She turned, brushing past me as she reached for a stack of mail on the table. The faint touch of her sleeve against my arm was nothing and everything. I caught the scent of her perfume. Faint, warm, familiar in a way that made no sense. She paused there, beside me, her hand on the mail, not moving. I could feel her thinking. Then, almost too softly to hear, "You can sit if you want." I didn't move. She looked up, eyes catching mine, brown, tired, alive. The kind of look that pulls truth out of you before you're ready. And then a sharp knock at the door. Her body stiffened. She didn't turn. The music seemed to stop. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. "Don't say anything." Her fingers brushed mine. Quick, intentional. As she stepped past, toward the door she'd locked, and I realized she hadn't forgotten to. The knock faded, leaving silence thick enough to hear our own breathing. Whoever it was, she didn't open the door. Just stood there, hands still on the handle, body angled slightly away like she was waiting for something that wouldn't come. Then, after a long breath, she turned back toward me. "Wrong house," she said, voice steady but off by a fraction. She poured herself fresh coffee. I didn't believe her, but I didn't ask. That was the first thing I learned about Elena. You don't press. She offers pieces on her own time, and if you try to take more, she'll close up faster than the sound of that lock. She finally sat across from me at the table, the steam from her mug rising between us like a thin curtain. "You remind me of someone," she said. I wasn't sure what to do with that. Good thing or bad thing? She smiled faintly. "Just someone I used to know. He talked like you, quiet, but listening." There was something heavy behind those words. Maybe memory, maybe regret. I watched her thumb circle the rim of her mug, slow and steady. I said, "You don't talk like someone who likes being alone." Her eyes flicked up, a flash of surprise, then something softer. "I got used to it," she said. "After my husband left, I learned how to make quiet feel less empty." That was the first time she mentioned him. No bitterness, just fact. I nodded, unsure what to say. She must have seen it, the uncertainty, because she added, "Don't look like that. It's not tragic. Just time doing what it does." Her tone was light, but the pause that followed wasn't. I leaned back, pretending to study the pictures on the wall. An ocean, a younger version of her at a cafe table, sunlight in her hair. "You were a photographer?" I asked. "Once," she said. "Before all this." She gestured vaguely, meaning life, maybe age, maybe the weight of both. Something about the way she said before made my chest tighten. She stood, walking past me to adjust the frame. Her hand brushed my shoulder lightly, unintentionally, or maybe not. My pulse jumped anyway. I tried not to move, but she stayed close enough that I could feel the warmth of her body through the air. Her breath touched my neck when she said, "You notice too much." I swallowed. "You make it hard not to." The words slipped out. Not smooth, not planned, and for a second, neither of us breathed. Then she exhaled slowly, almost like a laugh but not quite. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I'll start believing them," she said, still looking at the photo, not me. The quiet that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was charged, full of all the things neither of us would admit. Finally, she turned to face me, the corner of her mouth lifting. "You should go before the rain starts." But I didn't move. She hesitated, fingers brushing my sleeve as if to guide me. Only she didn't pull away right away. The clock ticked once, twice, and then, softly, almost like she was trying to convince herself, "You can stay a minute, just 1 minute." But the way her hand lingered said she already knew it wouldn't be. Rain hit the windows not long after she said I could stay. A soft, steady rhythm that filled every pause we didn't know how to break. Elena sat beside me on the couch, barefoot now, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. She had tucked one leg beneath her, turned halfway toward me. Comfortable, but too close for comfort. We weren't saying much. We didn't need to. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at it, didn't move. "Your friend?" I asked. She shook her head. "My sister. She worries. About you. About me being alone." She smiled faintly. "She thinks that's a problem." I didn't answer. My eyes stayed on her hand. The way she brushed her thumb over her coffee mug, tracing the handle slowly over and over. When she noticed me watching, she set the cup down, her hand hovering like she wasn't sure what to do with it next. "You should probably head home before it gets worse out there," she said quietly. "I don't mind the rain." Her eyes met mine then, not challenging, just searching. "Don't say that like you mean something else." "I don't," I said, but even I didn't believe it. A silence followed, not awkward, not safe either. The kind where every second makes it harder to step back. Then her phone lit up again. This time it was a name I recognized, my mother. She froze. So did I. The screen glowed between us, her name spelled out like a warning. Elena's breath caught. She looked at me. A long, uncertain look, before flipping the phone face down. "Does she know you're here?" I shook my head. She exhaled slowly, a humorless laugh escaping. "Of course she doesn't." Her fingers brushed her temple, pushing back her hair. "God, if she knew." "She doesn't," I said quickly. "And she won't." That should have made her feel better. Didn't. Her voice was quieter now. "You're too young to understand how fast people talk. How fast they judge. I don't care what they say. You will." Her words landed sharp, final. But then she looked at me again. Really looked. And her tone softened. "It's not that simple." She shifted, leaning forward to grab the remote. I caught the faint tremor in her hand. She didn't turn the TV on. Just held the remote like it gave her something to do with her fingers. The air between us tightened. Quiet, electric. I could smell her perfume again, mixed with rain and coffee and something warm I couldn't name. Her shoulder brushed mine. Not an accident. She didn't move away. Neither did I. When I finally spoke, my voice came out low. If I leave now, I'll think about it all night. She turned, inches away, her breath hitting my cheek. And if you stay, I'll still think about it. The thunder outside rolled, distant but close enough to fill the silence we couldn't. Her eyes flicked down to my lips, then up again. Fast, guilty. She started to say something, stopped. My hand twitched, wanting to reach for her, but I didn't. She leaned in just slightly, then froze when her phone buzzed again, the sound too loud in the quiet room. This time she answered, her voice steady. Hi. Yeah, he just dropped something off. Her fingers brushed my knee, maybe by accident, maybe not, as she said it. When she hung up, neither of us moved for a long time. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, we shouldn't, but her hand stayed where it was. The rain hadn't stopped by the time she hung up. It came harder now, slanting against the windows, turning the streetlights outside into soft, blurred halos. Elena didn't speak for a while. She just stared at the dark window, her reflection layered over the night. Her fingers still rested on my knee, like she'd forgotten they were there. Finally, she said, your mother trusts me. The words were simple, but her voice trembled at the edges. I didn't answer. She turned toward me, hand pulling back slowly, as if the space between us suddenly mattered again. She thinks She stopped herself. I don't know what she thinks, but not this. Her eyes met mine. I could see it there. Guilt, fear, something raw. You don't have to explain, I said. Yes, I do. Her tone sharpened, but only for a second. Then it broke. You think this is just harmless, don't you? A moment. Curiosity. You'll go back to your life, and I'll go back to mine. I shook my head. You don't believe that. Her breath caught, a quiet sound. No, she admitted. That's the problem. We sat in the echo of that sentence. Then she stood, crossing to the window. Her sweater hung off her shoulder again, and when she lifted her hand to touch the glass, the fabric slipped lower. The light hit the curve of her neck. I stood too, moved closer before I could stop myself. Elena, don't, she said softly, but she didn't move away. I could smell her shampoo. Faint, clean, something like jasmine. Her hair brushed my cheek as she turned her head slightly toward me. You should go, she whispered. I can't. Her eyes closed for a second. You don't understand how wrong this is. Then make me understand, I said, my voice too low, too close. She turned then, suddenly, her hand pressing flat against my chest. It wasn't a push, more like she was steadying herself. You're 24, 25 next month. Her laugh came out shaky. Oh, well, that changes everything. Does it? Her hand stayed there, warmth seeping through my shirt, fingers trembling. Do you even know what you want? She asked. Yes. That made her look up. For a moment, the whole room felt smaller. The sound of rain muffled, the air between us thin. She lifted a hand, almost without thinking, and brushed my hair back from my forehead. Her fingers lingered, sliding down to my jaw. I felt her hesitate, the tiniest pause. Then she let her thumb trace the corner of my mouth. Elena, I breathed. Don't say my name like that. How am I supposed to say it? Like you shouldn't. But even as she said it, she leaned closer. The space between us disappeared until I could feel her breath against my lips, warm, unsteady, sweet with coffee. Her hand slid up, resting behind my neck. The storm outside cracked, thunder rolling through the walls. And just as I thought she'd close the distance, she stepped back. The motion was sudden, sharp. Her chest rose and fell fast. You need to go. Elena. Now. She turned away, one hand gripping the counter like she needed to hold on to something solid. The next words came out barely louder than the rain. If you stay, I won't stop you next time. I didn't see her for 3 days after that night. 3 days of rerunning her voice in my head. If you stay, I won't stop you next time. On the 4th evening, she texted, "Can you bring the folder from your mom's office?" Nothing else. No greeting, no emojis. Just that. I told myself it was just an errand again. Just like the first time. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking on the walk there. When she opened the door, she looked different. Tired, maybe, or like she'd spent the last few nights not sleeping. Her hair was damp, pulled back. No makeup. Still, she looked like something I shouldn't want but did anyway. "Thanks," she said quietly, taking the folder from me. She didn't invite me in. Not right away. Did I do something wrong? Her hand froze on the folder. She looked up slowly. "Why would you think that? You disappeared." "I needed space," she said, but her voice didn't sound convinced. "From me." Her silence answered for her. I nodded. "Right, I get it." I turned to leave, but she said my name softly, urgent. "Wait." When I looked back, she was holding her phone. Screen turned toward me. It was a message thread with my mother. "Mom, you saw him lately? He's been quiet. Elena, he dropped by last week. Everything's fine. Mom, I miss having you over. We should all get dinner soon." And then one more, dated just yesterday. A single line from Elena that froze me cold. "Elena, he shouldn't come here anymore. It's confusing him." She lowered the phone slowly. "I didn't mean for you to see that." I stared at her. "Then why show me?" "Because you deserve to know the truth." Her voice wavered. "I was trying to do the right thing. For you. For her. For myself. By pretending none of it happened?" Her jaw tightened. "You think this is easy for me?" I don't know what to think anymore. The air between us thickened again. Rain started outside, as if the weather was on her side. Always there when we broke something. She stepped closer, her voice low. "You're too young to understand what happens when people find out. They'll say I used you, that I'm broken, that you didn't know better." I swallowed hard. "And what would you say?" Her hand trembled as she reached for me, then stopped halfway. "That I tried not to feel this." I felt it then, the shift, the truth settling in like gravity. She hadn't been running from me. She'd been running from what she already knew. I closed the distance, my breath brushing against her temple. "Tell me to leave," I whispered. Her eyes flicked up to mine, glassy, torn. "I already did. Tell me again." She didn't. Instead, she stepped forward until her forehead rested against my chest. My arms hovered in the air, waiting, trembling. "This isn't going to end well," she said against me. "Then let it end honestly." Her fingers curled into my shirt, not pulling me closer, not pushing me away. And then, with a whisper that barely made it past her lips, "I think she knows." When she said "I think she knows," it was like the whole house exhaled. The air shifted, charged, heavier. I didn't ask who she was. I didn't have to. My mother's name hung unspoken between us. Elena stepped back, pacing toward the kitchen but not really moving anywhere. "She called earlier," she said, her voice barely more than a breath. "Asked if I'd seen you again." I said no. The lie hung there, trembling like a loose wire. "You could have told her the truth." Her eyes lifted to mine. "Could I?" The rain pressed harder against the windows. We were both quiet long enough to hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the tiny click of the clock on her wall. Finally, I took a step forward. "What are we doing, Elena?" Her arms folded across her chest, though she didn't seem cold. "Trying not to make a mistake." Too late. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. When I reached for her, she didn't stop me this time. My fingers found her wrist warm, pulse fast under my touch. She didn't pull away. She just looked at me. A long, searching look that hurt and healed at the same time. "You shouldn't touch me like that," she whispered. "I can't not." Her hand came up slowly, resting on my chest. "You think this means something?" "It does." She shook her head, but her eyes betrayed her. "You're young. You'll wake up one day and regret this." "I've already tried to." The smallest laugh slipped from her. Shaky, half disbelief, half surrender. When I stepped closer, the space between us narrowed until I could feel the warmth radiating off her skin. She tilted her head slightly, as if weighing something invisible. "Say it," I whispered. "Whatever you're thinking." Her eyes flicked down, then up again. "That I want to stop, and that I can't." I didn't move. Neither did she. The moment stretched thin, every breath, every heartbeat hanging between us. Her fingers slid up my chest, then stilled at my collar. "You'll hate me for this one day," she murmured. "I won't." "You will." Her voice broke on the second word, like something inside her had already decided. Then, quietly, almost like she was asking permission, she said, "Just once, then." The words landed in the silence and didn't echo. They just stayed. I stepped forward until our foreheads touched, the faintest contact. Her breath trembled against my lips, her eyes half closed, waiting but not daring. It wasn't a kiss. Not yet. It was the edge of one, the inhale before the question neither of us could answer. And then she moved, not away, but into me, arms around my neck, her body fitting against mine as if that was the only way to breathe. When she finally looked up, her voice was steady again. "Now you understand." "Understand what?" "That wanting someone doesn't make it right." The words hit like cold air, but she didn't step back. Her hand brushed my cheek once, a soft, final touch. "Go before I forget that." I didn't move for a long time. Then she turned, opened the door, and the sound of rain rushed in, cold, relentless, washing everything quiet again. For the first time, I didn't try to stay. But as I stepped outside, I realized, understanding her didn't make me want her any less. The storm passed sometime in the night. By morning, the world looked rinsed, streets shining, leaves dripping, sky pale and forgiving. I hadn't slept. I kept hearing her voice every time I closed my eyes. "Go before I forget that." I tried to believe it was an ending. It wasn't. By noon, I was back outside her house again. Not with a plan, not even with courage, just the weight of everything unsaid. She opened the door before I knocked. Maybe she'd been waiting. Elena looked softer in daylight, hair pulled back, sweater sleeves covering her hands. She didn't seem surprised to see me, just tired in that quiet, beautiful way people look when they've been thinking too much. "You shouldn't be here," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "I know." We stood there for a beat, the door half open, the air between us cool and heavy with leftover rain. "I kept thinking," I said. "You said wanting someone doesn't make it right. Maybe. But pretending it means nothing doesn't make it go away." Her eyes lowered, and for a second I thought she'd closed the door. Instead, she stepped aside. "Come in," she whispered. Inside, everything smelled like fresh coffee and the faint trace of her perfume. The music from that first night played again. Same low, wordless tune. Neither of us spoke right away. I watched her move through the kitchen, her every motion slower, deliberate. When she handed me a mug, our fingers brushed. She didn't pull away. "I didn't sleep," she said. "Kept wondering if you hated me." "I don't." "I almost wanted you to," she admitted, her lips curving sadly. "Would have been easier." "Easier isn't always better," I said. She looked at me then, really looked, and something in her expression changed. The distance we'd been holding on to cracked, not with words, but with a sigh that sounded like surrender. She came closer. Her hands trembled a little when she touched my arm. "I don't know what this is supposed to be," she said. "Maybe it doesn't have to be supposed to be anything," I said. "Maybe it just is." Her laugh was soft, unsure. "You make it sound simple." "It feels simple right now." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she reached up, fingers tracing the side of my face, the edge of my jaw, like she was memorizing it. I leaned forward without thinking, and she met me halfway. Not a kiss, not quite. Just her forehead resting against mine, her breath warm, steady. Felt like forgiveness, or maybe just truth. After a long silence, she said, "Whatever happens, promise me you won't lose yourself in this." "I already found something," I said. "Maybe that's enough." She smiled, small, real, and let her hand slip into mine. We sat like that for a while, side by side, watching the light move across the floor, not needing to fill the quiet. Outside, the rain started again, gentle this time. She squeezed my hand once. "Maybe next time," she said softly. "We'll stop pretending we don't care." And for the first time, neither of us looked away. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?